on these streams, I often give you links. I like go into the chat myself, blah blah blah. Thought so. I have a habit. Let me like immediately start out. I have a habit. Any application that I come into, I try to press Control U to see if it like deletes text until the start of the line. Shouldn't be expected to work damn near anywhere, to be fair, but like I was hoping and coping. So I send you links. Maybe I'm showing you a program that I made, or well, yeah, that like, and I want to give you a GitHub link. You might see me go in the terminal and do something like ggl or gll and gglf and gllf. So those were my fish functions that I wrote in fish shell that constructed the correct GitHub link from some data, basically. So I'm currently in a Git repo. I'll immediately start using a different command, but the idea of the same. I'm going to show it off, basically. And then we're going to come to explain what changed and all that stuff. So play along for now. So here I am in a Git repository that supposedly has a GitHub. Actually, not supposedly, it has to have one. Or not necessarily we'll get to it. I do GHL, boom, I get a link printed to this repository. And if we activate this browser first to make sure that it gets opened in there, and then open this link, once we wait for some time, boom, we get it opened. So the link is correct. All right, what else can we try? I usually give you 2 links, and well, I might as well give you this link. It makes sense since this is actually what I'm talking about. I rewrote my fish functions in Rust, and it's now called GHL, GitHub link. This program lets you construct GitHub links however you wish, and then use them pretty conveniently. So yeah, this is the link to this, I guess. But what if I wanted to be more specific, like, oh, I want you to look at a certain file in this project? What I would do before would be gglf. And let me explain the semantics between these like letter combinations that the 4 ones that I already listed. GGL is go get link. That's where the name comes from. And it's so short because it's supposed to be used in the terminal, and I would rather not be writing. You might say, well, hold up now. What about Uklaner? What about Clorange? What about fucking Floral Barrel? Now, that's a whole sentence of a program name. I think I changed, where now my programs are generally named not as longly as they used to be before. Floral Barrel, by the way, is named by using Uklaner. Basically this, like I randomized words until they sounded good together. Right, so GGL is go get link. So it's the base form of this link constructor. And that is also the case for GHL. Just gives you the link. And what happens here, let's actually show what the program is doing behind the scenes. First of all, we do git remote, and we see, so origin. If this repository was a fork, the first remote would be origin still, but it will also have remote. Wait, it will also have upstream, so it would have 2 remotes. The first one still being origin. So GHL takes the first one, No matter how many you have, it will take the first remote from executing get remote. Cool, we got the remote name. Now we get remote. I forget the actual command. I think, yeah, remote. Oh yeah, get URL and origin in this case because we just got it. Boom, we got the link. And we strip this dot get from it, and boom, that's basically it. Very, very simple. But that's not all that the program does. So we had GLL. What was that? It was a way to express, give a link to this specific current commit. Because if you look at this link and click it, if you click on it in the future, it will give you that future rather than giving you my present, you know? So maybe I give you a certain link to a certain file, meaning, oh, look at what it is currently in the file. If you get a general link like this, you'll see the file in the future, essentially, compared to where I'm from, right? So, and there's a way to make sure that you see the commit that I'm seeing. And that's what I was doing with GLL on my streams. Alright, so there is GLL in GHL as well. So we do GHL, and let's be more specific. What do we want to get? We want to get a general link, but to a specific now type commit. So GHL, what do we do now? We parse branch, or dash parse branch. You can do it either way. I just do dash PB because, well, it's faster. So parse branch head. Head, specifically in uppercase, in Git means the commit that you're currently on, which also means the latest commit. So essentially what I want to do is get a link to the current commit in the present that will still be valid as long as the repository exists overall. So in base Git, to specify this head, it has to be in uppercase. If you just say head, it will not be recognized. And let me actually prove it to you by showing, once again, a bit more of the inner workings of the program. What is parse? Parse is essentially just calling a git command to parse your input, in that case head, with a git command, and that is git rev parse. I'm pretty sure. So we git rev parse. Let's try saying head, and we get the current commit. If we do glow, and let's do head, so we just see the latest commit. Boom. So yes, indeed, we got the full hash of the current commit that I'm on. Okay, what if we just say head? It doesn't know what that means. In my program, however, it does. So let's GHL parse branch head. Boom. And I wanted to say, as you can see, but I myself can't see. Yeah, that is indeed the same commit as expected. We got a link to a specific commit. Let me send it to you so you in the future can see the difference for any people watching right now, there probably won't be a difference. There's a good chance that I never ever update this program ever again, because it's done. I don't think I have like to-dos about it. Let's go look. I have a to-do for Indeed, for Cracker, which is a taken name, unfortunately. It's really funny, I wanted to use it, but I cargo searched Cracker, and basically it's taken. For Clorange Biliberda, and now it's called Octaget. But it's fine to dead name this because it's really funny, Octusi. So I might just never see, like, taken. I might just never add any changes to GHL ever. Who knows, maybe like this commit that I've sent you, like that link, will still continue to be working. But regardless, let's open it and see the difference. I have my address bar hidden mostly, so let me pop it out. We see that on the previous link we just have isofullblur GHL, and boom. So right now they're displaying the same things, but maybe, who knows, maybe I do add more stuff in the future, so you in the future might be seeing a difference here, in case you decided to follow along. It's not very obvious though, right now, obviously, like, because right now they're exactly the same. So let me actually give you an example that will be different already. Let's do GHL, once again, parse, branch, and I think I explained it okay, that the parse, what it does is that it converts head to the actual commit. And it's the feature of my program to also accept lowercase head. Something like this will not work, because I couldn't be bothered, let's be honest. Like, I thought about it, like, oh, I should probably take in any case, then figured out what the code would have to be, and I'm like, I don't think it's worth it. Like, if someone types out an uppercase E in the middle of head, like, they can try again, it's no big deal. Maybe I'll add it though in the future, but basically the code would look ugly, so I didn't. But basically, lowercase head and fully uppercase head both work. Okay, so how about we want to get the previous commit? That's actually possibly useful. There's a syntax for this in Git, the caret. Yes, indeed, the caret. This one, definitely. Technically, it's like written as caret, I think, right? But I think I pronounce it as carrot, and I find that funny. So what this means is basically the commit before this one. So the commit before head is the previous commit. Yeah, so boom, and the hash is different. Let me once again give it to you, and open it. Now we can play a game of differences. I think it's actually called some other name, I don't remember. So when we go look here, we see that the commit displayed here, this is the latest commit, it's 432 blah blah blah. But if we go here, it's now different. So now this link that we opened is functionally different. We're looking at the project a bit more in the past. Maybe some things there are like older. It doesn't seem that way. It looks about as done as it was before. Maybe add examples to readme. Update readme. Okay, so the difference is that here I also give you some examples of how you can use it. See, and this wasn't here before, yeah. So that's pretty cool. The more practical example of how you would be using this for real is you do glow, which ends up being git log one line, and you're like, okay, I remember that a certain file used to exist, and I want to link to it. Like, it no longer exists in the current commit, so I want to link to a file that used to exist in a certain commit. You get me? So let's actually go and give a more useful example. I used to use Z shell for Linux, and I had my own config, naturally. I tried keeping it in my dot files for the longest time, but it annoyed the shit out of me, and I removed it because I switched to fish shell, and fish shell is what I use now. Am I streaming, by the way? Yeah, imagine I was like just yapping for no reason. So yeah, I use fish shell. And let's say somebody is just starting out with Z shell and they want my Z shell config. What I would do, like that's literally what I would do, is do glow. And here you can press / to search. This is a less feature, the pager less, which is opened here automatically, at least in my either shell or terminal, or I don't even know why it decides that it needs to open in a pager. I prefer it, but I'm not sure how it decides it. So now, this is why you should be making good commit messages. What matters most is that they're understandable, at least to you. If you're the only person working on the project, it should be understandable at least to you. Like, for example, this commit message, whoops, I'm unsurprisingly not straight. This commit message, what the fuck is this, right? But it makes sense to me. VS Code. This weird thing also picks code action. I come from AutoHotkey, and in there, exclamation mark means alt. So alt semicolon also picks code action. So this is super understandable to me and very short. And since I'm the only person working on my .files project, obviously, because it's a very personal thing, boom, it's both quick, easy to read, and understandable, and searchable. So something Z shell, most definitely. And here we go. We have remove p10k config and Z shell RC. So what do I do now? I open my screen to copy this. And let's use this. We do GHL parse branch. But now what we can do is just specify this commit. And let's remove parsing. We just say branch, just this branch. Because we removed parsing, this text is just, whoops, this text is just taken literally. You can see how here and here, the hashes got expanded. We said head, and it gives us the full hash. And right now it won't, because it's just taking this as literal text. Whoops. Yeah. So just branch, and at this point, Z shell RC, I imagine it was just in the root directory. Let's run this. Oh no, couldn't resolve the specified path to a real file or directory. Use connector to specify the connector type yourself. What does this mean? We haven't linked to a file yet, so I probably should have given an example of that first. And actually, let's do it first. A more simple example of something that already exists. we do GHL, and let's forget about the branch right now and just say romit.config. And here we got a link to this file. Let's once again open it. And as you can see, it now opens my grommet config, the thing that I use to draw on my screen. And this file will always be like the latest because the link is general. So maybe in the future it doesn't even exist. Or maybe in the future it has more colors or different settings that are not those that you see right now. And we can use the same trick that we used just recently to get the current, like present commit. Same thing. We copy it, we paste it, we open it. What? Hold up, what? Huh. Why is this the case? I can find a Hold up. I think I know why. Because I have unpushed commits. See, that file at this commit node doesn't exist yet because I haven't pushed it, which is an important thing to realize, to push things. Boom, we pushed it. So now when we reload the page, it will exist. Here you go. And this will stay consistent. As long as I either don't rename the repository or don't delete it, it's going to stay exactly the same. In case, for example, you want to get my settings for how I draw as of this point specifically, rather than whatever else I changed in the future. So yeah, that's how we specify a file. And if you look at the links that we have so far, we first have the main part of the link, which ends in the project name. Then we have this thing that says tree. All right. Then we have, in this case, this is a commit hash. And after this, we would get path to a file or directory. All right, let's study another link. Oops, wrong color. Once again, we have, it ends in a project name. We have blob now, interestingly. And it says main. What does main mean in here? It literally means the main branch. So we can figure out from this that, so this element is either a commit or branch. And then, yeah, indeed, we have path to a file. And this pattern repeats. GHL makes use of this pattern being, as far as I know, super consistent, and builds links using some git commands that it runs, and assuming some things that by all accounts should be true. So what is this tree blob blob thing? So it is a blob if you point to a file, which we do here and here, and that's why it's blob here and here. If you are not pointing to a file, it is tree. So those are the rules. Very, very simple. So what was the command? Yeah, this one. How do we figure out, how does the program figure out whether it's tree or blob? It simply checks the file. It asks the file its metadata, and if it is a file, or rather, if it is a directory, we get tree. If it is not a directory, we get blob. So symlinks don't work by default. You can't get a link to a symlink. How do we go around this? What if the file does not exist, so we can't check whether it's a file or a directory? We do this by using a flag, which I forgot how it's named. Oh, connector. The error fucking message told us, right. So here we say GHL, we specify a literal branch of this, and we'll look at what that entails. I already explained briefly, but we'll see it more precisely. And we specify this file. Once again, we get this error. It says use connector, or just -c super works, and you specify the connector yourself. We know that we are pointing to a file here, so we say blob, and we got it. Now, expect this to not work, like the link to not work, for two reasons, which we'll go over. First reason popped out, but we'll get to it. First of all, take notice. It does not expand the full hash. Don't worry though, GitHub understands this still. At least in my repository, which has, let's actually check how many commits it has. I need to look at my dot files to see how many commits we have. Oh, Jesus Christ! I did not know that. I didn't know that I had 1,500 commits. That's crazy. It's insane. But let's go and just edit the link ourselves. How about that? We just remove this. And see, we just have 4 symbols here. That's it. And it still works. And it didn't even change, like, or fix the link. No, just 4 symbols are enough. So this is okay. If you know the specific commit that you want to specify, you can just specify the first 4 characters. At least in my testing, that has been enough. Maybe there are some edge cases in which 4 is not enough, but yeah. Essentially, when you do glow, you don't necessarily have to copy this. You can just remember, okay, 1B45, right? And then you say 1B45. So yeah, this is not the issue then. The fact that we specified a commit hash without parse, which would turn it into the full hash. So why did this link not work, you might ask? First of all, let's remember ADF4. And let's do glow again. And I already forgot. Oh, I probably have it here. No, I don't. Okay, Z shell, whatever. So ABA4 CB. I keep confusing this, and well, right here I did it on purpose, but I generally keep confusing it. So I read remove p10k config and z shell rc. What I expect this commit to have is the p10k config and z shell rc before they got removed, but that is not what this is. This is a commit that removes them. So on this commit, they won't exist. The commit before this commit will have them. You know? Because we haven't gotten to deleting them yet. So on this commit and before those, they exist. This commit specifically does not have them. which is why we can either specify B5A1, and we can immediately test it out, the fact that it works. B5, right? B5A1. And we can open this. Interesting. 8B867D5 is like... I guess. I can only guess what you mean. I mean... Yeah, I agree that this number looks better, to be fair. So, let's immediately check if I'm maybe wrong. Let's parse. Oops. It has to be before the branch flag. Let's parse branch. Well, and we come to find out. Okay, yeah, it makes sense that it works this way. Basically, the 4 characters worked because there were no other commits that matched those. But I tried checking multiple times. 3 always failed, but 4 worked always for me. I guess this is the first time where 4 wasn't enough. So at the end of the day, if it's like reasonably easy for you, you can just copy this and this will work. But yeah, there are cases where 4 is enough. So what you could do is just remember, okay, B5A16, right? And use B5A16. And let's do exactly that and open this link. And here you go. It works. Let me copy this and send it to you. Yeah. So we figured out that you don't necessarily have to have the full hash for the commit to work. And yeah, indeed, you don't have to. You basically need to have as many symbols as it takes to make sure that it is unique. And I'm saying this because basically you don't have to specify P. In some cases, just specifying it literally like this is fine. But if you can be bothered and you don't mind that your link is this fucking long, you might as well specify P to absolutely ensure that it is correct. But there's a reason why parse is not the default. Because okay, let's say I do main. I want to get a link to this file on the main branch. And this file doesn't exist, so I specified the connector myself still. Whoops, it doesn't actually point to main, what the fuck? What I wanted to do here is specify a link that is a general link. A link generally to the main branch, which means that it will have more commits in the future than it has now. But what I got is a specific commit that will always stay the same. This link doesn't work, by the way, because this file doesn't exist right now. So basically, the reason why parse isn't used by default is because otherwise you would not be able to specify links to specific branches that you have, how to I get a woman to commit, more like how do I get a man to commit, am I right? I'm talking out of my ass here, but I feel the like the opposite issues more often. Maybe not, I guess. um yeah, so that's why p exists and parse exists. Because if you do it like this, you just specify branch main, here you go. You just got main. But with this example specifically, you don't actually need to, because it defaults to the default branch. This would more so be useful if, say, you have dev or something. Here you go, you got a link to that file in the dev branch specifically, if I had it. I don't think I do anymore. Yeah. So we can get a general link which updates as the time goes on, because it doesn't point to a specific commit. We can point to a specific commit, and we can point both to files and directories. I haven't actually pointed to any directory, but the idea is the same. It's just it would display tree instead of blob, and it would work. Or you would specify -c tree. Oh yeah, actually I haven't shown this. -c tree, like if .z shuttle rc was a directory and we know about it, we would just specify tree ourselves. Yeah. And yeah, that's basically the main functionality. But let's go look at some lesser but also very useful stuff that the program has, which I've been not using on purpose. Let's go read the help page, which naturally it has. So branch, parse that we went over. I'll show you about remote. But first of all, connector we also have, and help inversion. Those are pretty obvious. So we have web. This thing that I've been doing, pressing Shift-Alt-I and then picking the link to open, don't actually need to, because there is a flag for it. If you specified your browser environment variable, it will use it to open the resulting link in your browser. So let's do exactly that. Let's do GHL, let's parse branch head previous or something, right? And then grommet.config. And here, by the way, we're pointing to a file in the past, but since it exists still, we don't need to specify the connector ourselves, because the file exists right now. So it's fine that we're pointing to the past. However, that may bring out an interesting issue. Like, what if grommet.config used to be a file and now is a directory? The program will think that you're pointing to a directory because it is now a directory. And in that case, you would specify -c blob or --connector blob. But that's like an edge case. So -c is kind of for edge cases. Yeah, so boom, we structure our link like, okay, I want a link to grommet.config on the previous commit. And then -w will open it in your browser. Boom. So this thing that I've been doing all this time, not actually needed. You can just specify -w and here you go. It will automatically open it. And as you can see, it still prints it to the console. So maybe you had a thought pop in like, oh, but I still see how it's useful to not use this flag to make sure that the link is actually visible before you decide to open it. Very, very reasonable thought, and that's exactly what I had at first in my mind. But then I realized, like, oh, I can, like, it's my program. I can just still print the link regardless and also open it in the browser. And by the way, it's most often not going to be noticed ever, but it is printed first and opened in your browser second. So in that sense, let's open it again, for example. The link appeared first there, so maybe this is enough time for you to be able to tell, like, oh no, this is wrong, like, for whatever reason. And then you don't even try to pay attention to what's in your browser, just go back and try to fix it, right? Yeah. Maybe it would, like, take longer for your computer to open it. Sometimes opening things with my browser, like in different applications, can take like up to 2 seconds, but for some reason it's really, really fast in my program. I'm not flexing even. I'm not sure why it's so fast. Maybe because, right. Let me drink water first and vape. God, I love vaping. If I got like a vaping sponsor, I would honestly just take it for the product. Fuck the money, I'll take the product. I'm such a slut when it comes to vaping. It's insane. Been vaping since I was 15, I think, right? 15 or 14, something of that nature. I still love it. A lot of people say that, oh yeah, smoking and so forth is an addiction and just purely bad. And they, for a good reason by the way, don't realize that it's actually, it can be enjoyable. It may, and usually will, come to a point where you're like, fuck, this is no longer fun and nice anymore. But I'm not at that stage yet. I've gotten to it, I've come back then. So, like, it can be fun and enjoyable. I'm not trying to, like, advertise vaping, by the way. Just kind of sharing my experience that it's not necessarily... you don't necessarily continue doing it only because it's an addiction. Because you can have an addiction and still realize that, fuck, this is not fun, I'm going to try to quit this. But you may not want to quit this because it's actually still fun. But for smoking specifically, that unfun stage comes way, way quicker. Cigarettes get old pretty fast. Well, I don't know, like, it depends on the person, I guess. Vaping seems to be a bit harder to get tired of, I guess. Yeah, so what was I yapping about? I already forgot. Yeah, I straight up forgot. Yeah, so -w or dash web flag to open it in your browser, which is really fast for some reason. No clue why. Okay, what if you use GHL to then pass it somewhere? Like, for example, you pass it to... Gosh, what? What can you pass this to? I don't know, fucking cat, whatever. There's no, like, visible thing that happened. Fuck. Yeah, I don't know. Basically, you pipe it to some command as input, and it has a new line here actually, which may be annoying because what you want to do is just have the string of the link by itself without also having to remember that, oh right, it also has a new line at the end. It might not matter in most programs, if not all of them, and maybe it depends on the syntax that you use in your shell. Maybe it is being taken care of by fish shell itself. You see what I'm saying? A very unsure territory that you don't want to be asking questions about because it's super different depending on many different situations. So just -t or --trim, boom, no new line at the end. Simple, easy. You don't have to worry about doing your own black magic to remove the final new line that by all accounts shouldn't even be there. But for me personally, it's fine even though it has a final new line because it gets copied without it. See? And when there is no new line and it is visible, this character appears, which is very useful. But if I were to copy it, like, let's actually do this. Let's boom, boom, yeah, this, and Control Alt this. Look at my clipboard, and it actually has the symbol and 3 spaces for some odd reason. So this is why trim is not the default. You might not want to. And for me, it's the default to not want to. And by the way, like this symbol, right? The link is still correct when it opens in your browser. The printing and the opening are separate. It's not like you print and use what got printed as a link that you're supposed to open. They're separate, so don't worry about that. Hello, DevLife. I feel like I know you from somewhere. Your nickname looks familiar. I feel like I maybe left a comment on your channel or something, maybe talked to you on Discord or something of that nature. Very, very familiar nickname. Okay, GHL, and let's look at the help again. So we looked at trim, web, connector, parse, branch. The only thing that we have left is remote. Now, I don't actually have an example to show you because I don't have any forks. You're from India. I've talked to a few Indian guys on Discord. Right, so I don't have any fork repositories because I'm a selfish developer. I only make things for myself and share them rather than trying to build into a project that already exists. And I don't have a job yet, so I have no fork repositories to show you this, but remember at the kind of start of the stream, I should be git remote, only shows us origin, but it can also show upstream if your repo is a fork. And what upstream means is basically the upstream repository from which you get pull, basically the repository that you forked. And origin is your repository. And the reason why we're calling it remote to get these names to begin with is because you don't necessarily have to name it origin or upstream. They can be damn near anything. It's just a convention. It's not a requirement to call them those names. So if, for example, you wanted to build a link to your upstream repository, the one that you forked rather than your fork, you would add remote upstream usually. And do remember the usually. It's not necessarily upstream. It could be named anything. It's just usually upstream. And this is why to get the initial link, we use git remote to get the name of origin rather than expecting it to be origin, you know? And this is the same case here. So if the link that you want to get is not to origin, or rather to the first remote that is specified from calling get remote, then you can specify the name of the remote yourself to get the link off. And then all the other rules apply just the same. So here you go. How do you install this? Very easily. You cargo install GHL. You can also cargo bin install, cargo bin chilling GHL, as well as cargo quick install. I don't know if -y works here, truthfully. I never used quick install. I have it installed though, and it just automatically uses itself sometimes. GHL. And using bin install and quick install, you can just grab the binaries that are already built for you for Linux, Windows, and Mac OS. Not exactly every architecture, but the main 3 ones. Yeah. So there's a high chance that it will install super quickly by just grabbing the correct binary rather than having to compile from source. Cool. So yeah, you can install it, and just so you're, I guess, more likely to actually check it out, it's also very, very easy to uninstall it. That's it, and just removes the binary and you're done. Which is why I love Rust so much. Publishing, installing, uninstalling, all of that jazz is very quick and easy once you have installed cargo. Which, yeah, like, if you never installed a Rust program, like it's usually expected, it's a step, true, but once you have, it's very, very easy to work with them. No fucking sudo apt install. Oh wait, I forgot to first of all sudo apt update, and then sudo, maybe here you don't need the sudo apt upgrade, sudo apt install GHL. No, this bullshit. Fuck, I hate Debian so much. Yeah, so using GHL, you can now easily get links to damn near anything. Like within your project, you can build a link to something. Like, yeah, it's super nice. And I've had this feature in Fish Shell, but it was kind of limited in how nice it was to use, its expressiveness, and it had a drawback. Basically, if you run GHL by itself, it just gives you the normal link. But what GGL, the fish shell function, which was made to do the same exact thing, what it used to give us is basically GHL branch main. It would give us this. Functionally, the two links are identical. They're the same thing, they mean the same thing. Well, not exactly, because this specifically gives us a link to the main branch, and this just goes us to the default branch. I guess that's the difference. But by this, I meant go to the default branch. So anytime I gave a link, it had to have tree main, and that kind of annoyed me. This is no longer a restriction of GHL. Yeah. Also the fact that you can easily open it in your browser using -w, and that you can easily trim it using -t. Like, I fucking love it. Very nice program, and it's now my third Git related program. The other one is Octusi, which is my Git status thingy in the prompt, and Gaf. Let's do a quick show off of Gaf because I think it's underappreciated. Gonna be honest. Let's go change something. Let's do .files, something like this, right? I'm not sure if comments exist in this config. .files Let's actually go to abbreviations and add a new line here. Whatever, right? Oh wait, the change is in abbreviations. I'm gonna get there. Positional. We add a new line here. Let's go. Now we get status and we see two changes. What we can do is git add everything by using a dot. Everyone is used to it. A lot of people abuse it, understandably so. But what if what you wanted to express, actually, yeah, this example doesn't work very well. Let's touch ASDF. Boom, now we get a new file. So we have a modification that we have not yet staged, and we have a completely new file. Maybe it's a new config that I'm currently working on, but it's not exactly at a state where it's ready to be committed. By using gaf, you can express the idea of gaf stage modified, or just gaf sm, to only stage the modifications. And then you can just as easily gaf unstage modified, or just um, to unstage only the modifications. And the same thing goes for new files. New, you know? And for all types of changes, you can stage or unstage different types of git changes, which is incredibly useful if you're using git from the terminal, because it's a very common idea, especially when you added a new file, but at the same time working on a lot of small modifications before you can actually get to committing the new file. So yeah, it's called gaf, and you can install it the same way that you can install GHL. I'm on a fucking yapathon. I don't know why, like, the word yapping sounds hilarious for me for some reason. It's such a, it's an amazing word. It's so cute. It's great. Yeah, so gaf and GHL. Loop 99, yap. I have no clue what you're referencing. I have another program, which I'm not I think I showed it off on stream before. Maybe yes, maybe not. It's called Twice, which is a confusing name. Let me get into it. Twice randomly picks one option out of those specified. Yes, no, maybe, I don't know. And it gives us yes, or maybe, or yes, or maybe, or yes. Trust me, it could also say no and I don't know. Here we go. Why is it called Twice, you may ask? Because initially that program was made to pick between two options, and then I realized that there's nothing stopping you for, like, it's very easy to make the program accept more options. It doesn't need to be restricted to just two. And so it is still called Twice, and I don't want to rename it because it's a very good name, and I don't want to just occupy a name for a project that would be dead. But it is a confusing name. Yeah, so basically it lets you relay the responsibility of picking something onto a program that just randomly does it for you. Fuck. I was trying to... That's a mess. I was trying to get some water, but my filter is damn near broken. So It's like spilling water everywhere. Hold up. Let me try to finesse this thing. I need to change my filter. Okay, I got it. Hello. So twice, right? You can install it once again, the same exact way. Nothing really changes there. But just like no reason, let's look at the main page of Shove. No reason whatsoever. Okay, generate random permutations, that's cool. Write a random permutation of the input lines to standard output. Okay, so we can like shuffle files, right? I don't know, let's like shove grommet npx. Oh wow, all the lines are shuffled up. I wonder how this can be used. Dash n? Oh wow, does that mean that I can dash n1 to get a random line of this file? Uh-oh, this is getting dangerously close to what my program does. Well, it requires a file though, and maybe I don't want to create a file for something temporary, so my program is still valid and useful, right? Except E for interpret, not actually true, but I find it to be a nice mnemonic, and it does exactly what my fucking program does. Fucking exactly. Default furniture, right? Furniture. Same exact thing. Why does this program exist now? It's damn near useless. It's slightly nicer syntax, it's more precise, but like it's unnecessary. Shove, a GNU utility that you don't have to install, by the way. It's just a GNU utility that you'll probably have on your Linux. It does this already. Well, I guess at least the positive of my program, called Twice, is that it's cross-platform, so you can install it even on Windows and use it on Windows or Mac OS. While Shove maybe exists on Mac OS, I don't know, and definitely doesn't on Windows. Probably somebody's gonna prove me wrong. Like, Sast is gonna come into the stream and actually, for what it's worth, Shove exists on Windows. Did you know about it? Like, he's the type of guy who would know about this type of thing. Yeah, let's actually see what -e stands for. Oh, echo. That makes no sense. Treat each argument as an input line. Yeah, so basically, you can use Shove for this sort of thing. But if one, you like the nicer syntax of Twice, meaning no syntax whatsoever, or two, you're not on Linux, you can use Twice. An extra benefit of Twice is that you can twice, and if we try to do this in Shove, it still works? Really? Okay, let's do this. Here we go, and it wouldn't, and it would work in Twice. We are not in Twice. Oh, I use clap. I forgot about it. Well, yeah, not a lot of benefits. So I'm kind of like disappointed. Like, oh my god, really? I have this program that actually, like, it used to already exists? Or did I make it? But I still use it over Shove because it's kind of faster to type, first of all, and second of all, out of pure, like, annoyance, I guess you could say. Like, fuck you, Shove, for you not being known by me. Yeah. Kind of sad, but very hilarious. And I guess the final thing that I wanted to talk about on this stream Paru, which is red now. What the fuck? I've been using Arch for... I was gonna show you the date at which I started using Linux, but it has some more personal info. Let's actually do this, and now you have hiding secrets from you. I'm gonna look it up quickly. I will not waste time. VF, boom, and then we go to events, and I installed EndeavourOS on 6th of August. Boom, we came back. So 6th of August, and it is currently, well, actually, yeah, you can see the date. In a pretty nice way, I date all of my videos and streams. When you're watching this in the future, you can very clearly see what date it is, and it is the 23rd, like, year. So 0023 after Christ. He just recently died, well, kind of recently, 23 years ago. And I'm in the Stone Age programming, mostly in Rust, as it happens. 24th months, called Blablember, and 12th day. Right? All makes sense. So, yeah, when you're watching this in the future, you can very clearly tell when this was filmed. Maybe like it's way too old and you might be like, wait, hold up, is this still relevant? And you can look into stuff that I'm talking about, like, I don't know, like some config I'm showing you, and it's like a year has passed. You can probably assume, oh, it most definitely changed a lot, or maybe it doesn't exist, and so on and so forth. And it was kind of nice detail. So Paru is a AUR helper for Arch and Arch derivatives to install packages from the AUR. And I recently started using the Happy program. I know, crazy. I've been using Paru for the entire time that I've used Linux so far. Well, specifically EndeavourOS, once I've switched to Linux on my hardware rather than just WSL. So I've been using Paru all this time because my trusted friend Misha recommended it to me. Turns out he's silly and stupid. How could he not know that I actually like Yay more? Turns out I've never actually used it. I've always used Paru because I trusted his advice, but turns out it has a few things that I enjoy more. Let's try to install TGBT because it is likely already outdated, as it often is. Keeps breaking it, keeps getting new versions like every other day, pretty much. So let's Yay TGBT, and now I sound happy, which is actually somewhat true. I've recently been overall more happy, less lonely, more excited to live, taking more care of myself. So that would usually be a joke, but it's actually correct, surprisingly. So yay, TGBT. And let's look at the differences. First of all, you get the list of possible packages that you might be looking for from the bottom to up, while Paru starts from up to bottom. And what I would have to do in Paru is almost always scroll to the start, look at what I need, then remember the number, which is too much for my brain, scroll back, and then pick. Not needed in Yay, is just here. I'm like, okay, 3, boom. And after I press 3, it actually asks me, like, which packages to clean build. I still have no clue what that means and what that entails. Because even if I press N to mean none, it will still like update and build the package. And if I do A, it also does it. So I'm not sure what's the difference here. I'm sure it exists and it makes sense, I just don't know about it. But in theory, this is a good thing that it's asking me this. And it asks me whether or not to show the diffs. I don't care, I've installed this package many times. I trust it. I'm taking the risk. Technically, you should be always reading the diffs. Blah, blah, blah. Fucking yapping. Fucking 1F913 looking ass, you know? So I just say none. No, truthfully, like, you should be reading the diffs. If you can bother to. But for something that I've been using and updating and installing for so long, and the only difference ever is just the SHA, so I don't particularly care. And boom, and it installs. So, first of all, it's easier. Hold up, let me hide secrets from you once again. And here we are. Boom, boom, boom. So this process is the same, like the actual installation process is pretty much the same as in Paru, but first of all, we get a much nicer interface of selecting the thing because you don't have to scroll annoyingly. Generally, when I search for stuff to install, it will be contained on my screen. And if not, then I can scroll rather than mostly having to scroll, which used to be the case in Paru. And second of all, Yay actually asks you whether to clean build or not. Not sure what that means. I'll have to figure it out. And I'm actually going to add it. What does clean build mean? So I can figure that out on my own time. And it asks you whether and which diffs of package builds to show you. Well, Paru will always just give you that, and you'll have to like either scroll through it or press Q to go out of the pager that shows you the package build and all that stuff. Yay respects your freedom as a user to be stupid, which I respect. So yeah, two nice things, which is why I'm now using Yay. It's not often that I use default things, and Yay is kinda the default one, and it literally is on Endeavor OS, not even like metaphorically. It's just installed by default. And I uninstalled it, so I recently reinstalled it again, and now I'm using Yay. And that's a rare thing. I always try to replace default options with something non-default, because generally defaults are kinda ass when it comes to programs. Like, I don't care about systemd being the default, I could not care less. But something like my terminal being console, yeah, obviously I'm going to switch off. And Yay. Oh, it's the default? That probably means that it's worse. So I'm going to switch to Paru. That's what I thought, but no. Turns out I like Yay more, and it sounds happier. So, the more you know. But Paru is newer and maybe faster. I heard something of that nature. Maybe there are more things in comparison to Yay that make it worth it in other ways, which may be more important to you. So I do recommend checking out both. By the way, I completely did not mention this, but yes, indeed, I remember the Unicode for this emoji, and I just inserted it by knowing the Unicode. I completely missed that. Oh, right, that is ridiculous. I just know this emoji. Let's know this one. I should probably call them before I make them to like make it clear that I'm not bullshitting you. Let's do the sunglasses emoji, and that is 1F60E. Now the like V symbol that you do with your two fingers, the index finger and the one next to it, 1F91E, I'm pretty sure. Oh, that's the this one. See, yeah, I can fail. Oh, I was thinking of 270C, right? Yeah, that's the one. And you generally need to add a few off to it, which is variation selector 16, to make it display properly, at the very least on Discord. But yeah, so this is, 1F91E is this one. Okay, I'll need to like re-remember it. What else do I remember? 1F92F is a one that I use all the time. It's one of my favorite emojis. I used to use 149C for this. What? Oh, 1F9. Hold up. 1F49C. That's what I meant, to get a purple heart. But my two favorite colors are now different. So it's yellow, and I recently switched to 1F49B, which is yellow, and also there's a pink heart, which Unicode I do not yet remember. I will in the future, thanks to Anki. That's how I memorize all of them, by the way. What else do I remember? Oh, D9E is the Amogus symbol. 2014 is M dash, but I can also type it like this, so there is no need to really use the Unicode input. I'm not necessarily trying to remember all of those that I remember, just kind of throwing shit out. Basically, there are more that I remember and actively use, like for example, 1F480 is the skull emoji. I should have called it before once again. 1F97A is the pleading emoji. Yeah. So this thing that I'm doing, pressing Ctrl-Shift-U, this is a KDE feature. It might be more specific than just overall KDE. Maybe it's a feature that you can install, who knows? Maybe it's a compositor type thing, like you need the compositor for it to work, and I think that's true. Regardless, you can press Ctrl-Shift-U and damn near everywhere on KDE Linux to insert a character by its Unicode, which is why I started memorizing Unicodes, so I can basically hash my emojis. They're always the same exact thing, which is more or less the same exact length, rather than having to remember whatever the fuck this emoji is called in every single application in its own emoji picker, like in Telegram, Discord, VK, and so on and so forth, having their own emoji pickers that name this emoji differently, and that may even make you have to scroll and click with your mouse, which is just terrible. I don't need to. I just remember the Unicode and I use it everywhere. So this way, I have a single solution that works everywhere and is more cross-platform than you might think. This specific feature, inserting a character by its Unicode, is on KDE. It might be more widespread than I think, but let's assume that it's only KDE. Well, that's the thing. First of all, I have another way of doing the same thing, but on every OS, there is a way to figure out how to insert a character by its Unicode. You can get that feature somehow. What matters is that you actually remember the Unicodes for your emojis. So it's more cross-platform this way, interestingly. So it's both cross-app, it's like system-wide, the same everywhere, and cross-platform, because once you figured out how to insert a character by its Unicode, here you go. You just got access to all types of symbols. Because even if you do decide to rely on emoji pickers, well then you can't just whip out the Amogus character, right? It's not something you can do. Because it's not an emoji that you can pick. But if you know the Unicode and can insert the Unicode, you get access to cool symbols like that. Damn, I need to kind of calm down. I'm heating up and coughing like crazy. And my brain started hurting. Okay, that's a sign. Because I'm yapping on 100%. Yeah, so basically, this is a pretty ridiculous approach. I do realize it. It's super autistic, but well, I'm autistic, so it checks out. But it's something to look into, in my opinion. Because, like, efficiency-wise, it has a point. It is more difficult to remember Unicodes than it is to remember a billion names for emoji pickers, but it streamlines and basically hashes the experience of using special symbols everywhere, which is why I like it so much. And I take it step by step. Let me actually show it to you. I have a deck called Hex, and this should be the main window, which just has like symbols, this one for example, and I need to type out its Unicode, and that's how I memorize stuff. Let's actually sort by opposite of created. I guess not. Maybe by do. Yeah, okay, so let's search by reversed do. Scroll to the top. For example, some emojis end up using multiple different characters, and I can insert them just as easily once I've memorized them. Yeah, so basically emoji or special symbol, and it's Unicode, and as time goes I will eventually have memorized like all of those that are useful to me, and I'll be able to just insert damn near anything that I want anytime on any system once I've set it up, because like Unicode insert is a pretty general feature, so I doubt that it's like Linux specific. It's definitely doable on Windows with AHK, like I'm sure. I probably did it even, so yeah. And macOS probably has some solution of doing this sort of thing as well. Yeah, so I'm quite happy about it, about this approach. So maybe if you're autistic too, or maybe just like the idea for no reason, you can consider it. Personally, using emojis has been easier since then, interestingly, because once I've memorized a Unicode, I can insert emojis very quickly. Like maybe like let's say yapping like this. That was pretty fast. This would probably be faster, you might argue, and that's fair, but whoops, it doesn't work here whatsoever. Oh shit, how do I get this? Oh, I need to I guess Google for the emoji, copy it from somewhere, you know? And maybe I'm on Discord and I'm like here, blah 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 blah, and here this works, so maybe I use it there. We go to Mastodon, which I'm not sure. Boom. We go to Mastodon and blah blah blah. Okay, it does work here. See, but it's different here. It's fucking different. So here it's just nerd. And here it's fucking nerd face. And see what I'm saying? This is very annoying to have to also memorize, but far less useful information. Because once you have memorized the Unicode, here you go. You have kinda useful information for the rest of your life. You know what that emoji's Unicode is, and that may come up in more places than you would think. But knowing that Mastodon uses nerd face and Discord uses just nerd is not useful. It's just kind of like unfortunate to have to know it. So yeah, that's my another argument. And if you liked my yapping, I do indeed have a Mastodon and it's in my description, so go follow it. I talk shit, different stuff. So if you're interested, feel free to follow me.